Welcome to Easy A Homeschool Academy. Today, we are going to learn about an important river civilization from a long time ago. A civilization is a place where people live, work, play, and learn together. The civilization we will learn about today is called Ancient Egypt. While much of ancient Egypt's geography mirrors that of today, a vast desert, along the Nile River, a fertile land served as a life source for the inhabitants of the region. The Nile River is the longest river in the world, and it flows north for about 4,000 miles. During the time of ancient Egypt, crops could be grown along the river's banks, providing food for the people living there. The Nile River greatly influenced how the people in the region lived. Similar to other civilizations that relied on the ebb and flow of a river, the Egyptians did the same. They knew that the river would flood at the same time each year. After the flooding, there would be a rich layer of silt or mud that made it ideal for growing wheat, barley, beans, and cotton. Farmers created irrigation systems of short canals that led to fields near the Nile. This provided fresh water all year long. By timing when they planted their crops, they could harvest what they needed before the floods returned the following year. The Egyptians are credited with creating a calendar that was developed based on the cycle of the Nile River. This calendar is similar to the one we use today. Thanks to the surplus of food, people could now use their time to specialize in other jobs besides farming. People developed their crafts as artisans, creating copper tools such as chisels and needles that allowed them to make jewelry. Artisans also discovered how to make bronze by mixing copper with tin, which marked the beginning of the Bronze Age. Historians believe that Egyptians created the potter's wheel, which made it easier to create pots and jars used for cooking, religious purposes, and decoration. Egyptians also used hieroglyphics or pictures to record information. Hieroglyphics represented words and sounds. Large reeds grew wild along the Nile River, and the Egyptians were able to fashion these resources into material they could write on called papyrus. They recorded calendars and other important documents on papyrus. Papyrus had many other uses. Boats were made by binding the reeds together in bundles. Baskets, mats, rope, and sandals were also created from papyrus. The ancient Egyptian society was polytheistic, which means they believed in multiple gods. There was a social hierarchy amongst the people, and it was constructed like a pyramid. The gods were at the top as they were believed to be in control of the universe. It was important to keep them happy as they could cause a flood, famine, or even bring death at a moment's notice. Egyptian rulers, called pharaohs, were believed to be gods in human form. They had total power over the people. The pharaoh was responsible for protection and directed the army in case of a foreign threat or conflict. All laws were passed at the will of the pharaoh. Nobles and priests were right below the pharaoh in status. Only nobles could hold government posts. They grew wealthy through tributes paid to the pharaoh. Priests were responsible for pleasing the gods. Soldiers were next, and they were responsible for fighting in wars to protect Egypt from outside threats. During times of peace, they supervised peasants, farmers, and enslaved people who were used to build pyramids and palaces. Skilled workers such as physicians and craftspersons made up the middle class. Merchants and storekeepers sold goods to the public. Enslaved people and farmers were at the bottom of the social structure pyramid. Enslaved people were captured as prisoners of war. They were forced to work on building projects. Farmers paid taxes in the form of grain that could be as much as 60% of their yearly harvest. A small number of peasants and farmers moved up the social pyramid. Families saved money to send their sons to village schools to learn trades. There were more than 30 dynasties in Egyptian history. Dynasties were powerful groups or families that ruled Egypt for a number of years. Dynasties helped keep Egypt united. This was a difficult task. Leaders faced periods of turmoil, rivals within Egypt, and foreign groups who wanted to conquer the region. To be a great leader, it was important that the pharaohs maintained a strong military force, successful trade agreements, and supervised building projects. To do this well, the pharaohs appointed positions of power to various people. There was usually a chief minister called a vizier to supervise the collection of taxes. The vizier worked with scribes to keep accurate government records. Scribes were important people in the community as they had mastered the skills of reading and writing. Arguably, one of the most well-known things about ancient Egypt is the pyramid. Pharaohs commissioned the building of huge stone pyramids that were used as their tombs after they had passed away. The pharaohs were buried in chambers within the pyramids during elaborate services in an effort to ensure they had a great transition to the afterlife. Pyramids were also built for religious purposes. Egyptians believed that when the physical body expired, the spiritual soul enjoyed eternal life. The Great Pyramids were simply grand tombs of powerful pharaohs. Ancient Egyptian civilizations existed more than 8,000 years ago and lasted for several thousand years. Many of its discoveries and practices have survived an even greater test of time. The developments made by the people influenced many more civilizations that came after them. Archaeologists are still learning about the ways of life of the people from this time through writings and artifacts they left behind. I hope you learned something about ancient Egypt today. Thanks for taking this learning journey with me. Until next time. As always, thank you for watching. Tell us what you want to see next. Email ezahomeschoolacademy@yahoo.com. Like and share our videos. Please subscribe to our channel.